Welcome back to Dark Films. Today's film story is The Vanishing Bride. This is a mystery story. The story begins with the arrival of a wedding day. The great hall was filled with the rich and famous. The groom, Alexander, looked handsome in his tuxedo as he waited for his bride, Victoria. But Victoria was nowhere to be found. Panicked, Alexander called out her name, but there was no answer. The wedding guests grew restless, and Alexander decided to take matters into his own hands. He contacted a renowned private detective, Jack, to help find Victoria. Jack arrived at the wedding hall and started his investigation. The first person he talked to was the wedding planner who had been in charge of the arrangements. The planner told Jack that Victoria had been nervous all morning and had been acting strangely. The detective then spoke to the bridesmaids, who told him that Victoria had been in contact with someone on her phone throughout the day. They didn't know who the person was, but they suspected it was a man. Jack asked the groom about Victoria's family, and Alexander told him that Victoria's parents had died in a car crash a few years ago, and she had no other family. This information made Jack wonder if Victoria's past had something to do with her disappearance. Jack's investigation led him to a small, seedy bar on the outskirts of town. He had received a tip that Victoria had been seen there with a man earlier that day. Jack entered the bar, and the patrons fell silent. He flashed his badge and asked the bartender if he had seen Victoria. The bartender denied seeing her, but Jack noticed a man sitting in the corner of the bar trying to avoid eye contact. Jack approached the man, and he identified himself as Victor, a friend of Victoria's. Victor told Jack that Victoria had been acting strangely for a few weeks and had been meeting with a man named Marcus. Victor didn't know who Marcus was, but he suspected that he had something to do with Victoria's disappearance. The detective thanked Victor and left the bar. He knew that he was getting closer to the truth, but he needed more information to solve the case. As Jack walked out of the bar, he saw a figure in the distance. It was a woman dressed in a wedding gown. It was Victoria. Jack chased after her, but she disappeared into the night. The detective was more determined than ever to solve the case and find Victoria. He knew that he had to act fast before it was too late. Jack spent the entire night searching for Victoria. He went to all the places she was known to frequent, but she was nowhere to be found. The detective decided to take a break and head back to his office to gather his thoughts. As he sat at his desk, Jack went over all the information he had gathered so far. He knew that Victoria had been in contact with a man named Marcus, and that she had been acting strangely for a few weeks. He also knew that she had disappeared on her wedding day, and had been seen in her wedding gown after her disappearance. The detective's phone rang, and it was Alexander, the groom. He was desperate for any news about his bride and wanted to know if Jack had any updates. Jack told Alexander that he was still investigating and that he would update him as soon as he had any new information. Jack decided to visit Victoria's apartment to see if there were any clues there. As he searched the apartment, he found a small notebook hidden under Victoria's bed. The notebook contained a list of names and addresses, and Jack recognized one of the names. It was Marcus. The detective wasted no time and headed to the address listed in the notebook. As he arrived, he saw a man leaving the building. It was Marcus. Jack followed him, and after a few blocks, Marcus entered a small diner. Jack entered the diner and saw Marcus sitting in a booth, eating a sandwich. The detective approached him and identified himself. Marcus looked surprised but quickly composed himself. Jack asked Marcus about his relationship with Victoria, but Marcus denied knowing her. The detective pressed him, and Marcus finally broke down and admitted that he had been seeing Victoria for a few weeks. Marcus told Jack that he had met Victoria at a charity event, and that they had hit it off. He said that Victoria had confided in him about her troubled past and her fear of someone named John. Marcus didn't know who John was, but he suspected that he was dangerous. The detective thanked Marcus for his cooperation and left the diner. He knew that he was getting closer to the truth, but still didn't have all the pieces of the puzzle. As Jack walked down the street, He saw a woman standing on the corner wearing a wedding gown. It was Victoria. Jack approached her, and Victoria looked relieved to see him. She told Jack that she was afraid for her life and that she needed his help. Jack took Victoria to his office and asked her to tell him everything she knew. Victoria told Jack that she had been hiding from someone named John, who was her ex-boyfriend. She said that John was violent and had threatened to kill her if she ever left him. Victoria said that she had met Marcus at a charity event and had confided in him about her situation. Marcus had offered to help her and had set up a plan for her to disappear on her wedding day. He had even provided her with a fake identity and a new passport. Victoria said that she had gone through with the plan, but she hadn't expected John to find her so quickly. She suspected that he had found out about her new identity and had been following her. Jack realized that John was the key to the case, and that he needed to find him before it was too late. He contacted the police and gave them all the information he had about John. They tracked down his location and apprehended him. John was brought in for questioning, and he admitted to everything. He said that he had been obsessed with Victoria and couldn't stand the thought of her being with anyone else. He had found out about her new identity and had been following her ever since. Jack told Victoria the good news and gave her back her real identity and passport. She was overjoyed and thanked Jack for everything he had done for her. The detective also spoke to Alexander, the groom, and told him about Victoria's past. Alexander was shocked but relieved that Victoria was safe. He said that he still loved her and wanted to be with her. In the end, Victoria and Alexander got married in a private ceremony. Surrounded by only their closest friends and family, Jack was there too, watching from a distance. He knew that he had done his job and had helped bring the people together. As Jack walked away from the wedding, he felt a sense of satisfaction. He had solved the case and had helped the people find love in the most unexpected way.